Captain Park Ji-won stood on the bridge of the New Seoul, staring at the massive space station floating in the red glow of a dying star. The station was unlike anything he had ever seen. It twisted and curved through space like a metal flower, its surface covered in patterns that hurt his eyes to look at for too long. "Captain, we are receiving no signals from the station," reported Lieutenant Kim Mirai from her position at the communications console. She was young for her rank, barely 30, but she had proven herself as one of the best xenoarchaeologists in the human fleet. "All scanning shows the structure is completely dead." Park nodded slowly. They had been exploring this region of space for 3 months now, pushing further from Earth than any human expedition had gone before. The outer rim territories were supposed to be empty, just dead systems and floating rocks. But this station changed everything. "Any life signs, Do-hyun?" Park asked the ship's chief engineer. Lee Do-hyun looked up from his scanner readings, his weathered face creased with confusion. "That is the strange part, Captain. The station shows no life, but some systems are still running. Power levels are very low, but something is keeping basic functions online." Park walked closer to the main viewing screen. The dying star behind. The station painted everything in shades of red and orange. He had seen many beautiful sights in his 20 years of space exploration, but this felt different. This felt important. "Dr. Kim, what do you think we are looking at?" he asked. Mirai studied the readings on her screen. "The materials are not like anything in our databases. The construction methods are completely alien. Whoever built this was far more advanced than us, but Captain, look at this." She pointed to a series of symbols carved into the station's hull. "These markings appear to be some kind of writing system. How old do you estimate the station is?" "Based on stellar radiation damage and metal decay patterns, I would say at least 5,000 years. Maybe more." Park felt a chill run through him. Humans had only been in space for a few hundred years. Before that, they thought they were alone in the universe. Now they were looking at proof that an advanced civilization had been here thousands of years ago. "Prepare a boarding party," Park ordered. "I want to know who built this and why they left it here." 2 hours later, Park found himself floating through the airlock of the alien station. The artificial gravity was still working, though it felt lighter than Earth normal. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls, which were covered in the same eye-twisting patterns they had seen from outside. Mirai floated beside him, her scanner beeping softly as it recorded everything. "The air is breathable, Captain. The atmosphere processors are still working after all these years. Whoever built this really knew what they were doing." Do-hyun checked the power readings on his equipment. "Captain, I am detecting a large computer system deeper in the station. It appears to be in some kind of sleep mode, but still functional." They made their way through corridors filled with dust and silence. The alien builders had been tall, at least 3 meters, based on the height of the doorways. Strange machines lined the walls, their purposes unknown. Everything had the feel of a place that had been abandoned in a hurry. "Captain, over here," Mirai called from a side chamber. "I think I found their records room." Park and Do-hyun joined her in a circular chamber dominated by a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with faint blue light. Symbols flowed across its surface like water, changing and shifting in patterns that seemed almost alive. "This appears to be their main data storage," Mirai said, running her hands over a console covered in symbols. "Give me a few hours, and I might be able to interface our systems with theirs." "Is it safe?" Park asked. "I believe so. The energy levels are very low. This system is barely running." 4 hours later, Mirai had managed to connect her portable computer to the alien system. The first thing they heard was a voice, speaking in a language none of them recognized. But the translation software quickly began to work, turning the alien words into something they could understand. "This is High Scholar Vorthman of the Vorthon Republic," the voice said. "If anyone finds this record, know that we tried to warn the galaxy. The Devourers have returned, and we cannot face them again." Park, Mirai, and Do-hyun exchanged glances. The voice continued, filled with a sadness that came through clearly despite the translation. "Our people once ruled a third of this galaxy. We had ships that could cross between stars in days. Our cities were marvels of crystal and light. We thought we were strong. We thought we were ready for anything. We were wrong. The recording showed images of beautiful cities floating in space, ships that moved like living things, beings that looked almost like tall, graceful humans with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. The first reports came from our outer colonies. Entire systems had gone dark overnight. When we sent investigation fleets, they found nothing. No wreckage, no bodies, no trace that anything had ever existed there. Just empty space where our worlds used to be. More images flowed across the screen. Star maps showing system after system marked in red, indicating destruction or abandonment. We called them the Devourers because they consumed everything. Not just life, not just matter, but the very memory of places. Sectors that had been home to billions became empty holes in space as if they had never existed at all. Park felt his mouth go dry. How is that possible? The recording continued. We tried to fight them. Our greatest minds built weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. Nothing worked. When the Devourers came, civilizations simply ended. We found the remains of other species who had faced them. All had the same story. All had failed. So what did you do? Mirai whispered to the screen. As if answering her question, the Vorthan continued. We made the hardest choice any species can make. Rather than face the terror of the Devourers, we chose to end ourselves on our own terms. The poison chambers were built. The final ceremonies were held. Our children died in their sleep, never knowing fear. The images showed empty cities, silent, streets, bodies lying peacefully in great halls. But before we join our ancestors, we leave this warning. The Devourers still exist. They move through the dark spaces between stars, patient and terrible. Any species that grows too large, that spreads too far, will draw their attention. The galaxy has learned to hide, to stay small, to never venture into the regions where they hunt. The recording began to fade. We have marked the forbidden zones on our star charts. Any who find this record must share this knowledge. The outer regions, the dead zones, the empty sectors. They are empty for a reason. Stay in the safe areas. Never venture into the dark. The voice stopped. The crystal went dark. The three humans stood in silence, trying to process what they had just heard. Captain, Doyun said slowly, according to these star charts, Earth is located right in the middle of one of their forbidden zones. Park stared at the alien map displayed on Mirai's screen. Red zones marked areas that the Vorthans considered too dangerous for any life to exist. Blue zones showed safe areas where species could hide and survive. Earth, and every human colony, was deep in the red. But we have been living there for hundreds of years, Mirai said. How is that possible? Maybe the Devourers are gone, Do-hyun suggested. Maybe they died out or moved to another galaxy. Park studied the map more carefully. Human expansion routes were traced in yellow lines across the display. Every single human colony, every exploration mission, every trade route ran through areas that the Vorthans had marked as death zones. Or maybe, Park said quietly, we are different somehow. Maybe we can live where others cannot. He activated his communication system. New Soul to Earth Command. Priority Alpha message. We have made first contact with evidence of an extinct alien civilization, and we need to talk about where humanity has been building its colonies. As they prepared to download the Vorthan database and return to Earth, Park could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Humanity had been expanding through the galaxy without knowing they were walking through what other species considered a graveyard. The question was what made humans different, and what would happen when the rest of the galaxy found out where they had been living. 3 weeks after Captain Park Ji-won returned from the Vorthan station, Admiral Choi Sun-woo called an emergency meeting of the Terran Defense Council. The Great Hall on Luna Station buzzed with nervous energy as military leaders, scientists, and politicians gathered to hear what Park had discovered. Admiral Choi stood at the front of the room, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had served humanity for 40 years and had never seen anything that worried her as much as the data from the alien station. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, what Captain Park found changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the galaxy. The main screen displayed the Vorthan star charts, Red zones covered huge sections of space, marking areas too dangerous for life. Blue zones showed small clusters where alien civilizations might still exist. Earth and all human colonies glowed bright yellow in the middle of the largest red zone. According to these records, Admiral Choi continued, humanity has been living in what other species call death zones for over 200 years. Every colony we have built, every trade route we use, every system we explore is in an area that caused an advanced civilization to kill themselves rather than stay. Dr. Song Hee-jin raised her hand. She was humanity's leading expert on alien cultures, though until now she had only studied ancient ruins and dead civilizations. Admiral, do we have any proof that other species still exist? Maybe we are alone, now. That is what we need to find out. Admiral Choi replied. Dr. Song, I am assigning you to lead a diplomatic mission to the Nexus Station. Dr. Song felt her heart skip. The Nexus Station was a legend among human explorers. Ancient, deep space. Scans had detected it orbiting a neutron star in the Gamma sector, but it was far from any human settlement. Some believed it was just another dead alien outpost. If the station is active, Admiral Choi explained, it could be a meeting place for surviving alien civilizations. We need to know if we are truly alone, or if there are others out there who might help us understand what the Vorthons were so afraid of. 2 months later, Dr. Song stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Seoul Express as it approached the Nexus Station. What they found took her breath away. The station was not dead. It was very much alive. The structure was enormous, easily 10 times larger than the biggest human space station. Ships of dozens of different designs docked at various ports. Lights moved across the station's surface in patterns that suggested heavy traffic and active trade. Dr. Song called Lieutenant Yoon Tae-hyung from the communications station. We are receiving multiple hails on different frequencies. I count at least 15 distinct signal types. Can you translate any of them? Working on it. Most seem to be asking who we are and what we want. A few are telling us to leave immediately. Dr. Song took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. First contact with living alien civilizations. Send a response on all frequencies. Tell them we are humans from Earth and we come in peace seeking knowledge. The response was immediate and shocking. Half the ships docked at the station immediately, began undocking and moving away at high speed. Several alien vessels that had been approaching the station changed course and fled into hyperspace. What just happened? Dr. Song asked. I am getting clearer translations now, Tae-hyung reported. Most of the messages are expressions of disbelief. Some are asking how we are still alive. Others are demanding to know what humans are doing in the dead zones. A new signal came through, clearer than the others. The voice was translated into heavily accented English. Human vessel, this is Station Commander Kritak of the Drekmari Republic. You will dock at Port 17 immediately. We must speak. An hour later, Dr. Song found herself in a conference room facing representatives of 6 different alien species. The Drekmari who had contacted them looked like tall lizards with bright green scales and intelligent golden eyes. Beside them sat insectoid beings with multiple arms and compound eyes that reflected the room's lights like jewels. You claim to be from Earth, Commander Kritak said, his words carefully translated by the station's computers. Our records show Earth is located in Sector 7 Alpha of the Forbidden Zones. No life can exist there. We have been living there for hundreds of years, Dr. Song replied. We have colonies on dozens of worlds in that region. The reaction was immediate. Several aliens made sounds that the translator could not convert. Others physically moved away from the conference table. One of the insectoid beings, which Dr. Song learned belonged to a species called the Kithera, simply stood up and left the room. A crystalline being that looked like living glass spoke in musical tones. I am Speaker Lamara of the Luminos Collective. What you describe is impossible. The Forbidden Zones are where the Devourers hunt. Nothing survives there. We have never encountered these Devourers, Dr. Song said. What exactly are they? Yusthur. Silence that followed her question was heavy with fear. Finally, Commander Kritak spoke. Dr. Song, perhaps you should see our historical records. Maybe then you will understand why we are so frightened. The next several hours changed Dr. Song's understanding of the galaxy forever. The aliens shared records going back thousands of years. Every species had the same story. At some point in their history, they had encountered signs of the Devourers. The Drakmari showed videos of entire star systems going dark overnight. Scout ships sent to investigate never returned. Long-range sensors detected nothing worth thriving. Worlds used to be. The Luminos Collective shared their memory crystals, which contained the experiences of their ancestors who had witnessed Devourer attacks. The images showed geometric shapes that hurt to look at, moving through space and consuming everything they touched. The insectoid Kithara, despite their fear, provided tactical data. They had tried to fight the Devourers once, sending their entire fleet against a single entity. The fleet was destroyed without the Devourers even slowing down. Every species learns the same lesson, Commander Kretak explained. Stay in the safe zones. Never venture into the deep sectors. Never grow too large or too bold. The Devourers are drawn to expansion and exploration. But we have been exploring for centuries, Dr. Song protested. We have colonies spreading across multiple sectors. How are we still alive? That is what we cannot understand, Speaker Lumara said. According to everything we know, humanity should have been consumed long ago. Dr. Song spent 3 more days at the Nexus Station, learning about the galaxy humanity had unknowingly entered. She discovered that there were dozens of surviving alien civilizations, all clustered in small safe zones scattered across the galaxy. They traded carefully with each other, never venturing far from their protected areas. The galaxy had not seen major exploration or expansion for thousands of years. Every species lived in constant fear of attracting the attention of the Devourers. They had developed elaborate systems of hiding and concealment. Their ships were designed to produce as little energy as possible. Their colonies were built underground or inside asteroids to avoid detection. We have turned survival into an art form, Commander Kretak explained. But survival is not living. We exist in the shadows, afraid to reach for the stars our ancestors once claimed. When Dr. Song finally returned to Earth, she carried with her the most important news in human history. Humanity was not alone in the galaxy, but they were unique. While every other species cowered in fear, humans had been boldly expanding through the most dangerous regions of space. The question that haunted everyone was simple. What made humans different? And more importantly, how long could their luck last? Admiral Choi reviewed Dr. Song's report with growing concern. The galaxy was full of life, but it was life paralyzed by fear. Humanity had stumbled into a cosmic horror story without knowing it, and somehow they had survived where others could not. We need to understand what we are dealing with, Admiral Choi told the assembled council. And we need to prepare for the possibility that our luck might run out. But even as she spoke, new human colony ships were launching from Earth, heading deeper into the forbidden zones that other species considered cursed. Humanity continued its march into the unknown, unaware that the galaxy was watching in amazement and terror. Commander Hanjisu stood on the observation deck of the colony ship Busan Dawn, watching the stars shift as they dropped out of hyperspace. Before them lay a green and blue world that would soon become humanity's newest home. The planet orbited, a yellow star in the Omega sector, a region that had been abandoned by all known alien civilizations for over 10,000 years. Beautiful, isn't it? Said Chief Engineer Im Na-young, joining him at the viewing window. Hard to believe the aliens think this place is cursed. Han nodded, but his expression remained serious. 6 months had passed since Dr. Song's return from the Nexus Station. The news that humanity was living in forbidden zones had spread through Earth's government, but the information had been kept secret from most colonists. There was no point in causing panic, the leaders had decided. Any second thoughts about settling here? Han asked. None, Na-young replied firmly. My family has been waiting 3 years for this opportunity. My daughter Minji is already planning where she wants to build her garden. The Busan Dawn carried 15,000 colonists, all volunteers who had signed up for humanity's most ambitious settlement project yet. The planet they were approaching, designated Sinwan, was rich in rare, minerals, and perfect for human life. According to the alien records, it had once been home to a thriving civilization called the Hilari, but they had vanished overnight 5,000 years ago. Colony command to all settlers, Han announced over the ship's communication system. Welcome to your new home. Prepare for landing procedures. Within a week, the first human settlements were taking shape on Sinwan's surface. Kang Woo-jin, a construction supervisor from Busan, led teams building prefabricated homes in what would become New Seoul City. His wife, Im Na-young, worked on establishing power plants and water treatment facilities. This place feels different, Woo-jin told his crew as they assembled another housing unit. Not dangerous different, just important different. Their daughter Minji, only 8 years old, had already made friends with other children on the colony. They played in fields that had once belonged to an alien race that chose extinction, rather than face the unknown terrors of space. But to the human children, it was just another playground under an alien sun. Back on Earth, Dr. Shin Yoonji worked late in her laboratory, studying the quantum signatures that Dr. Song had brought back from the Nexus station. As humanity's leading expert on exotic energy patterns, she had been tasked with understanding how the Devourers actually worked. Computer, display Devourer energy signature analysis, she commanded. The holographic display showed complex wave patterns unlike anything in human science, but after months of study, Shin was beginning to see patterns. The Devourers didn't just destroy matter and energy. They seemed to consume something much more specific. They feed on psychic emissions, she said to her research assistant, specifically the energy released by intelligent beings when they experience extreme fear and despair. Her discovery was groundbreaking. The Devourers were not random destroyers. They were drawn to civilizations that broadcast their terror across space. The more afraid a species became, the more likely they were to attract these entities. So the galaxy's survival strategy is actually making them more vulnerable, Shin realized. Their fear is calling the Devourers to them. Meanwhile, Captain Oh-min-hyuk commanded the research vessel Gangnam Pioneer as it explored abandoned alien ruins throughout the Omega sector. His mission was to understand why so many civilizations had vanished from this region. On a dead world that had once been called Vorthkala, his team made a disturbing discovery. The Vorthan ruins showed signs of advanced technology, but also something else. Hidden chambers filled with devices designed to amplify psychic energy across interstellar distances. Dr. Kim, what do you make of these machines? Oh, asked the expedition's archaeologist. Dr. Kim examined the alien devices carefully. These appear to be communication arrays, but not for messages. They broadcast emotional states, fear, despair, calls for help. They were asking for help, Oh realized. When the Devourers came, they sent out distress signals, but those signals probably attracted more Devourers. The evidence was mounting. Every extinct civilization they studied had made the same mistake. When faced with the unknown, they had responded with fear and had broadcast that fear across the galaxy. The Devourers had followed those signals like predators following blood and water. Back on Sinwan, the colony was thriving. Governor Lee Ha-young oversaw the construction of 3 major cities and dozens of smaller settlements. Farmers like Park In-jae had discovered that the alien soil was perfect for Earth crops. Teachers like Kim Soo-jin had opened schools where human children learned alongside holographic lessons about the galaxy they were inheriting. Population report, Governor, announced Settlement Coordinator Jung Seo-yeon. We now have 50,000 residents, with more arriving every month. Agricultural output is exceeding all projections. Any problems? Lee asked. None worth mentioning. Some colonists have reported strange dreams, but Dr. Nam says that's normal when settling on former alien worlds. Dr. Nam Young-ho was the colony's chief psychologist, but he was also secretly studying something much more important. The strange dreams that some colonists reported were not random. They seemed to be picking up residual psychic echoes from the planet's former inhabitants. The Hilari who lived here before were terrified, he explained to his research notes. Their final thoughts are still imprinted in the quantum structure of this world, but the human colonists are not afraid of these echoes. They experience them as curiosity, not terror. His theory was radical but increasingly supported by evidence. Humans processed fear differently than other species. Where aliens experienced paralyzing terror, humans felt excitement and curiosity. Where others saw deadly threats, humans saw interesting challenges. "We are not immune to fear," Nam recorded. "We just do not let fear stop us from moving forward." Other species see the unknown and retreat. Humans see the unknown and investigate. The implications were staggering. Humanity's expansion through the galaxy's forbidden zones was not luck or accident. It was the result of a fundamental difference in how humans responded to the unknown. Every other species had learned to survive by hiding. Humans had learned to survive by exploring. But this difference also meant that humanity was walking blindly into dangers that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than their own. The question was not whether the devourers would eventually notice humanity's expansion. The question was whether humans could survive when that attention finally came. Deep space monitoring stations began detecting unusual gravitational anomalies moving toward the Omega sector. The patterns matched theoretical models of devourer entities. After thousands of years of absence, something was approaching human space. On Sinwan, children played in gardens built on the graves of an extinct civilization, unaware that their laughter might soon attract the attention of entities that had haunted the galaxy for millions of years. Their parents worked and lived and dreamed, building a future in a place where others had found only death. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when humanity finally met the terror that had shaped every other species' existence. But the humans of Sinwan continued their daily lives, approaching the future without fear, just as they always had. Dr. Jung Soyun rushed into the Deep Space Monitoring Center on Luna Station, her hands shaking as she carried the latest sensor readings. As head of the monitoring network, she had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. "Admiral Choi, you need to see this immediately," she called to the Defense Council meeting in progress. Admiral Choi looked up from the strategic planning session. "What is it, Dr. Jung?" "We have detected massive gravitational anomalies moving toward the Sinwan system. The energy signatures match the theoretical profiles of devourer entities described in the Vorthan records." The room fell silent. Every person present knew what this meant. After months of studying the galaxy's fears and humanity's unique expansion, the moment everyone had dreaded was finally arriving. "How long do we have?" asked General Rodonghae, commander of Earth's military forces. "Based on their current speed, the entities will reach Sinwan in approximately 72 hours. Jung replied. President Bai Ji-hoon stood up slowly. He was a young president, elected partly because of his bold vision for human expansion. Now, that boldness would be tested in ways no one had imagined. "Recommendations?" he asked the assembled council. "Immediate evacuation of all human colonies in the Omega sector," General Rowe said without hesitation. "We pull back everyone we can and prepare defensive positions in the inner systems." "Sir, with respect, that would be exactly what every other species has done," Admiral Choi interjected. "It would mark us as just another civilization to be harvested. Dr. Shin's research suggests that running might actually make us more attractive to the devourers." President Bai walked to the viewing window, looking out at the stars that humanity had been so boldly exploring. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" "We make first contact," Choi said firmly. "We meet them head-on, with curiosity instead of fear. It is the most human thing we can do." The decision horrified the alien civilizations who had been monitoring human communications since the Nexus station contact. Within hours of President Bai's announcement, urgent messages began arriving from across the galaxy. The Cathera Queen, who had not spoken to any outside species for 1,000 years, transmitted directly to Earth. Her translated message was desperate. "Foolish humans, you do not understand what approaches you. The devourers do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They consume and leave nothing. Flee while you still can." The Luminos Collective offered to evacuate all human colonies at no cost, using their vast transport ships. "We will carry your people to the safe zones," Speaker Lumara promised. "You can rebuild your civilization where the devourers cannot find you." Even the proud Drakmari, who had never shown weakness to any species, sent a message of surrender. We who have conquered 100 worlds admit defeat before these entities, Commander Kretak transmitted. There is no shame in retreat when facing the impossible. But humanity's leaders made a choice that stunned the galaxy. They would not evacuate. They would not hide. They would meet the Devourers and attempt communication. General Rowe began mobilizing the human fleet, but not for evacuation. All ships are to be equipped with the most advanced communication arrays we have, he ordered. We are not going to fight. We are going to talk. On Sinwan, Governor Lee Hyung received direct orders from Earth to begin evacuation procedures. She gathered the colony's leadership in the main administrative building to discuss their response. Earth Command is ordering us to abandon our homes, she announced to the assembled group. They say we have 24 hours to gather what we can carry and board evacuation ships. The response was immediate and unanimous. Farmer Park In-jae spoke first. Governor, I have spent 3 years building my farm here. My crops are 2 weeks from harvest. I am not leaving. Teacher Kim Soo-jin nodded in agreement. My students have been preparing for their graduation ceremony. We have built something beautiful here. We should not abandon it because of fear. Construction supervisor Kang Woo-jin stood up. My family came here to build a new life. We knew there were risks. If we run now, we prove that humans are no different from the other species who hide in their safe zones. One by one, every department head and community leader voiced the same sentiment. They would not abandon Sinwan. They would face whatever was coming with the same courage that had brought them to this distant world. Governor Lee made the decision that would define humanity's response to the Devourers. Send a message to Earth Command. Sinwan Colony refuses evacuation. We will stand with our world. Similar messages came from human colonies throughout the Omega sector. On New Busan, miners decided to continue their work extracting rare metals from asteroid belts. On Hope Station, researchers studying alien artifacts chose to remain at their posts. On Frontier's Edge, explorers preparing to map the next system refused to turn back. Dr. Nam Young-ho, the psychologist studying human responses to alien environments, made a remarkable discovery during the crisis. He conducted interviews with colonists who had chosen to stay, trying to understand their motivation. Are you not afraid of what is coming? He asked Park In-jae. Of course I am afraid, the farmer replied. But I am more curious than afraid. We might be about to meet beings that have existed for millions of years. How can we run from such an opportunity? Kim Soo-jin had a similar response. My children ask questions about everything. They want to know how things work, why things happen, what comes next. How can I teach them to run from the unknown? Nam realized that he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. An entire civilization was choosing curiosity over safety, exploration over survival. The human response to the ultimate, cosmic horror was uniquely human. As the Devourers approached, long-range sensors began picking up more detailed information about them. They were not ships in any conventional sense. They appeared to be living geometric patterns that existed partially outside normal spacetime, moving through dimensions that human science barely understood. Dr. Shin Yoon-ji worked frantically to develop communication protocols. If they feed on psychic fear, she reasoned, then perhaps they can also perceive other emotions. Maybe we can reach them through curiosity, hope, or wonder. Captain Yu Jung-woo was chosen to command the contact fleet. He was a veteran explorer who had led first contact missions with ancient alien artifacts, but nothing had prepared him for this. His fleet consisted entirely of volunteers, humans who had refused evacuation orders and chosen to advance toward the approaching entities. All ships, this is Fleet Command, Yu transmitted as the Devourers entered the outer edge of the Sinwan system. Remember, we are not here to fight. We are here to learn, broadcasting on all frequencies, mathematical sequences, music, art, and literature translated into universal concepts. The galaxy watched in amazement and terror as humanity did the impossible. Instead of fleeing from the cosmic horror that had shaped galactic civilization for millions of years, they flew toward it with their communication arrays wide open, broadcasting the most human thing of all, their unending curiosity about the unknown. On Sinwan, families gathered in their homes not to cower in fear but to witness history being made. Children pressed their faces to windows, asking their parents what the strange lights in the sky were. Parents held them close and tried to explain that they might be about to meet the most ancient beings in the galaxy. The Devourers had arrived, and for the first time in their existence spanning eons, they encountered something they had never seen before, a species that approached them without fear. Captain Yu Jungwoo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Seoul Horizon, watching three massive shapes emerge from the darkness between stars. The Devourer entities were unlike anything human science had imagined. They looked like living mathematics, geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, existing partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that human minds could not fully grasp. "Captain, all ships are reporting the same thing," called Lieutenant An Mik-young from the communication station. "Our instruments cannot get solid readings on the entities. They seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once." "Any response to our transmissions?" Yu asked. "Nothing yet, sir. We have been broadcasting mathematics, music, art, and scientific concepts for 2 hours. The entities continue to approach, but they have not responded." Throughout the human fleet, crews worked desperately to establish communication with beings that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. On the research, vessel Gangwon Pride, Dr. Cho Sungmin led a team trying to develop consciousness-bridging technology. "The problem is that we are thinking like humans," he explained to his team. "These entities might not communicate through language or signals at all. They might share thoughts and concepts directly." "How do we bridge that gap?" asked his assistant, Dr. Lee Yuna. "By changing how we think about communication itself," Cho replied. "What if we try to project our consciousness toward them instead of sending signals?" The breakthrough came when the entities finally responded, but not in any way anyone expected. Instead of sending messages, they began to influence the dreams and thoughts of humans throughout the fleet. But unlike the paralyzing fear that other species experienced, humans found themselves filled with curious impressions and strange new concepts. "Captain," Mik-young reported with excitement in her voice, "I am receiving something, but not through our communication systems. It is coming directly into my mind." "What kind of something?" Yu asked. "Images, concepts, emotions that are not my own. It is like having a conversation with someone who thinks in colors and geometric shapes instead of words." Across the human fleet, similar experiences were being reported. The Devourers were trying to communicate, but their method of sharing information was so alien that only the human ability to embrace the unknown made contact possible. Dr. An Mik-young, who had become the fleet's primary contact specialist, began to piece together what the entities were trying to convey. Working with xenolinguist Dr. Park Soo-hyun and consciousness researcher Dr. Cho Sungmin, she developed a way to interpret the strange mental impressions. "They are confused," she announced to Captain Yu after hours of translation work. "For the first time in their existence, they have encountered a species that approaches them with curiosity instead of terror." "What do they want from us?" Yu asked. "That is the strange part, Captain. They want to understand why we are not afraid." The first real communication breakthrough came when Dr. Cho succeeded in creating a mental bridge between human consciousness and the entities. The process was dangerous and exhausting, but it allowed for direct exchange of concepts and ideas. Through this bridge, humanity learned the truth about the Devourers. They were ancient beyond imagination, existing since the IMBR, early days of the galaxy. They had witnessed the rise and fall of thousands of civilizations, always playing the same role. "We are gardeners." The entity that humans began calling the gardener communicated through pure thought. "We tend to the galaxy by removing that which has become diseased." "Diseased how?" Dr. An asked through the mental link. Images flooded her mind. Civilizations that had grown so paralyzed by fear that they could no longer progress. Species that spent all their energy hiding instead of exploring. cultures that had become trapped in cycles of terror and despair. We consume the fear-sick to end their suffering, the gardener explained. It is mercy, not cruelty. The revelation was staggering. The Devourers did not see themselves as destroyers but as cosmic healers. They removed civilizations that had become so dominated by fear that they could no longer grow or evolve. But we are not fear-sick, Dr. An protested. No, the gardener agreed. You are something we have never encountered. You feel fear, but do not let it control you. You see danger, but approach it anyway. You are curious. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourers found themselves uncertain. Every species they had ever encountered followed the same pattern. When faced with the unknown, they either attacked in blind panic or cowered in terror. Humanity did neither. Your species expands into regions we cleared of the fear-sick, the gardener continued. You build homes where others saw only death. You explore where others hide. We do not understand how this is possible. Dr. Cho, maintaining the dangerous mental link, tried to explain human nature. We are afraid of many things, but we do not let fear stop us from learning. The unknown is not our enemy. It is our greatest adventure. The concept was so alien to the Devourers that it took hours for them to process. They had spent eons believing that intelligence inevitably led to paralyzing fear of the unknown. Humanity challenged everything they thought they knew about how consciousness worked. You live in the cursed zones and thrive, another entity communicated. You approach us without weapons or shields. You offer us music and mathematics when others would offer prayers or screams. What are you? We are explorers, Captain Yu answered through the link. We are the species that looks at the darkness between stars and wonders what lives there. The mental communication continued for days. The Devourers shared their perspective on galactic civilization, showing humans how every species had eventually succumbed to existential terror. They revealed the locations of hundreds of civilizations they had consumed, not out of malice, but because those civilizations had begged for death rather than face their fears. In return, humans shared their own experiences. They showed the Devourers images of human children playing on worlds that other species considered cursed. They transmitted the emotions of explorers discovering new star systems. They shared the curiosity that drove humans to ask questions even when the answers might be dangerous. Your species feels wonder where others feel only dread, the gardener observed. You see opportunity where others see only threat. This is unprecedented. The communication bridge also revealed something else. The reason humanity had thrived in the forbidden zones was not luck or immunity to danger. It was because the Devourers had unconsciously avoided areas where fear was not the dominant emotion. Human colonies broadcast curiosity and excitement, instead of terror and despair. Human explorers approached the unknown with wonder instead of dread. The psychic signatures that attracted Devourers to other civilizations were simply absent from human settlements. We have been searching for your kind for millions of years, the gardener finally admitted. A species that grows through courage instead of shrinking through fear. We thought such beings were impossible. Why were you searching for us? Dr. An asked. The answer changed everything humanity thought they understood about the galaxy. Because we are tired of ending civilizations. We want to help one grow instead. The Devourers had not been searching for new victims. They had been searching for a species worthy of their protection and guidance. They had been waiting millions of years to find a civilization that could face the unknown without losing itself. To fear, humanity had passed a test they never knew they were taking. By approaching the galaxy's greatest terror with curiosity instead of fear, they had proven themselves worthy of something no other species had ever achieved: partnership with the entities that shaped galactic civilization. The age of hiding was over. The age of exploration was about to begin in earnest. 6 months after first contact with the Devourers, Ambassador Song Hye-jin stood in the center of the most remarkable structure ever built: Unity Station. The massive space station had been constructed in just 4 months through a partnership between human engineers and Devourer entities who could manipulate matter at the quantum level. Ambassador Song, the delegation from the Drakmari Republic has arrived. announced her assistant, Dr. Kim Min-jae. They seem nervous about meeting with a devourer entity directly. Song smiled. The past months had been full of such moments. The galaxy's civilizations were slowly accepting that humanity had achieved the impossible. Peaceful contact with the beings they had feared for millennia. Send them to Conference Hall Alpha, Song replied, and remind them that the gardener prefers to be addressed as a partner, not a superior. The gardener was the devourer entity that had become humanity's primary contact with their species. It had chosen to take a more stable form for diplomatic purposes, appearing as a constantly shifting geometric pattern contained within a crystalline structure that humans could look at without discomfort. In the conference hall, representatives from 12 different alien species sat around a circular table designed to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and shapes. The Drakmari delegation sat stiffly, their reptilian features showing obvious tension. The insectoid Cathera had only agreed to attend through holographic projection, still too frightened to be in the same space as a devourer. Welcome, friends of the galaxy, the gardener said through translators that converted its mathematical language into words the various species could understand. We gather today to discuss the future of all our civilizations. Commander Kritak of the Drakmari spoke first, his voice carefully controlled. Great gardener, our species has spent 10,000 years developing strategies to avoid your attention. Now you tell us this was unnecessary? Not unnecessary, the gardener replied. Your survival strategies served their purpose, but they also trapped your species in cycles of fear that prevented growth. We had to consider whether to end your suffering or wait for you to overcome it. Speaker Lum Ara of the Luminos Collective projected concern through her crystalline form. You speak of ending our suffering. Does this mean you still consider us diseased? Dr. Kim Mireille, now head of the Institute for Devourer Studies, had spent months researching this exact question. She had studied the records of every civilization. The devourers had consumed and discovered a disturbing pattern. The truth is complex, Dr. Kim explained to the assembled delegates. Every species that was harvested had indeed become trapped in fear-based stagnation. They stopped exploring, stopped asking questions, stopped growing as civilizations. The devourers saw this as a terminal illness. But we survived, protested Queen Cathara through her holographic projection. We maintained our civilizations. You maintained your existence, the gardener corrected gently. But existence without growth is not life. It is merely postponement of death. The revelation was difficult for many species to accept. The Vorthans, whose ancient records had first warned humanity about the devourers, had not been victims of cosmic evil. They had been suffering from civilizational depression so severe that they chose extinction rather than face their fears. However, the gardener continued, humanity has shown us that fear need not be terminal. Species can learn to grow beyond their terror. We wish to help others achieve this transformation. Ambassador Song presented the proposal that would reshape galactic civilization. We are offering a choice to every species. You can remain in your safe zones, protected and secure, or you can join humanity in exploring the regions you once considered forbidden. The offer came with unprecedented support. Human advisors would help alien species develop exploration programs. Devourer entities would serve as guides and protectors for expeditions into dangerous regions. Most importantly, humanity would share the psychological techniques that allowed them to face the unknown without being paralyzed by fear. We want to teach courage, Song explained. Not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite fear. The response varied dramatically among species. The younger generation of Drakmari, led by Sub-Commander Krival, immediately volunteered for joint exploration missions. A progressive faction of the Luminos Collective expressed interest in studying human colonies in former death zones, but many species chose to remain in their traditional safe areas. The Cathera Queen announced that her people would maintain their isolationist policies. Several smaller civilizations requested increased protection in their current territories. There is no shame in this choice, the gardener assured them. Some beings require security to thrive. We will establish protected reserves where fear-based civilizations can exist without judgment or threat. The transformation was not universal, but it was revolutionary. For the first time in millions of years, galactic civilization had options beyond hiding and waiting for death. Captain Park Ji-won, promoted to admiral after his discovery of the Vorthon station, now commanded the combined exploration fleet. His ships carried mixed crews of humans, adventurous aliens, and devourer entities working together to map regions that had been forbidden for millennia. "Admiral, we are approaching the Andromeda interface," reported Commander Kwok Jin-hyuk from the exploration vessel New Horizon. "Long-range sensors detect massive artificial structures of unknown origin. Proceed with standard first contact protocols," Park ordered. "Remember, we approach the unknown with curiosity, not fear." Dr. Lee Yuna, the fleet's xenoarchaeologist, studied the sensor readings with growing excitement. "Admiral, these structures predate anything we have found before. They might be from the civilization that created the Devourers." The possibility was staggering. The Devourers themselves were ancient beyond imagination, but they spoke of even older entities that had shaped the early galaxy. Humanity was about to explore mysteries that no species had dared investigate for millions of years. On Unity Station, the gardener observed the exploration fleet's progress with something that humans interpreted as pride. "Your species continues to surprise us," it communicated to Ambassador Song. "Even after learning about the dangers of the deep galaxy, you push further into the unknown." "It is what we do," Song replied simply. "We explore because we must. It is our nature." "Yes," the gardener agreed. "And that nature is precious beyond measure." The story of humanity's first contact with the Devourers had spread throughout the galaxy. Some species saw it as a tale of impossible luck. Others viewed it as proof that courage could triumph over any obstacle. But for humanity's children, it was simply history. On Sinwan, now the capital of humanity's expanding frontier territories, children who had been born since first contact played games that previous generations could never have imagined. They pretended to be explorers discovering new dimensions. They drew pictures of the geometric patterns that devourer entities used as bodies. They asked their teachers endless questions about the mysteries that lay beyond the next star. Teacher Kim Soo-jin, now running the most advanced school in human space, watched her students with wonder. These children had never known a galaxy ruled by fear. To them, the universe was not a dangerous place to be survived, but an infinite playground to be explored. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" she asked young Lee Minho, the son of colonists who had refused evacuation during the first Devourer contact. "I want to be a reality gardener like the Devourers," the boy replied without hesitation. "I want to help civilizations grow instead of just surviving." As the combined exploration fleet ventured into regions that had been untouched for millions of years, they carried with them the most important discovery in galactic history. Courage was contagious. Species that had spent millennia hiding in awe, fear were learning to explore again. Civilizations that had prepared for extinction were instead preparing for expansion. The galaxy still contained countless mysteries and dangers. Ancient entities slumbered in the spaces between dimensions. Reality itself was more fragile and strange than anyone had imagined. But for the first time in cosmic history, intelligent species faced these challenges not with terror, but with the uniquely human combination of respect and curiosity. The age of cowering was ending. The age of advancement had begun, and at its heart was the simple truth that had defined humanity from the beginning. The unknown was not to be feared, but to be explored. In the end, humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their technology or their courage. It was their refusal to let fear define their future. They had shown the cosmos that growth was possible, that evolution could continue, and that intelligence need not inevitably lead to paralysis. The galaxy no longer cowered, and humanity continued to advance without fear, leading others toward a future none of them could imagine, but all of them could help create.